Ladies and gentlemen, Investor Talk is back with an exciting Australian company. Today, I welcome here or there Peter Reid, the CEO of Petra Term Limited, for his first appearance on Investor Talk. Today, we talk about heavy mineral sands, nothing that has anything to do with combustion that your company name might suggest. Nice to meet you, Mr. Reid.
Yeah, good morning, Jan. Great to be on Investor Talk. Yes, we have an interesting name. It stems from the fact that we were originally a geothermal company back in the early 2000s, but we were spun out of a mineral explorer, and in more recent times, we've gone back to mineral exploration. There wasn't enough money in geothermal, unfortunately.
So there was some root in the combustion. Okay, I thought so.
Yes, yeah, Petra meaning rock and therm meaning heat. So yeah, we were drilling deep holes down to 4 kilometers. We were copying some of your colleagues there in the Rhine Graben. They're building fantastic geothermal systems. So we were doing the same thing over here in Australia in the early 2000s. That's where the name stems from. Going forward, we're likely to shorten our name to just ticker code on the ASX PTR.
Thanks for the background. Before we have a closer look at your projects, let's check the chart. And this is also very telling. Last November, something significant happened. We have a look at this shortly, but please tell us before something about your own background and your experience in the mining business.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jan. Yeah, I'm a geologist by training. I've been around for a long time now, hence the grey hair. I was a young geologist in the 90s, exploring principally for copper and gold here in South Australia, which is host to, one of the a world-class copper gold deposit, that being Olympic Dam. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of a small company called Minotaur, who in 2000 found the Prominent Hill deposit, which is a world-class copper gold project. That's now we sold that on to Oxiana, which became Oz Minerals, and then Oz Minerals were taken over by BHP. So that's now run by BHP and still an operating mine. But most of my time, I've been banging my head against the wall as an explorer. As you know, it's a high risk game, but we've had some success recently with the mineral sands.
Some is really an understatement,
Yeah.
but let's define first what mineral sands are, because you might know my channel is rather focused on gold and silver. So let's start with some basics. What are HMS? I found in definition. Rare and valuable, heavy mineral sands provide resources that are critical to the modern economy. Heavy mineral sands are paleodune, beach, or river deposits enriched in high density minerals such as ilmenite, zircon, leucoxene, monzonite, and rutile. We have a look at your projects in a few moments, but please explain us first what HMS are used for, especially your end product titanium or titanium dioxide.
Sure. So a lot of HMS deposits, well, most HMS deposits have titanium minerals present. They're typically ilmenite and leucoxene, which is a higher titanium concentration titanium mineral, or rutile, which is a very pure titanium mineral. They fetch good prices. They're very easy to mine because they're shallow sand deposits. It's normally free digging, so it's very easy to dig up the heavy minerals, and you just use wet concentrators and gravity to separate. So you can produce a concentrate for sale quite quickly. The titanium minerals are principally used as or two things: titanium metal, of course, but that's only about 7% of the market. And titanium metal we see, being used in medical environments because titanium metal is light, it's inert, it's very strong. So it's used in with your hip and knee replacements. Most recently, there was even a titanium heart that was 3D printed and used on a patient who survived 100 days on that titanium heart. So it has lots of applications, and I guess it's principally used in aeronautics, of course, with alloys, with planes and things, and renewable energy, and most recently robotics. There are a lot of and I think with the robot revolution we're about to see, you'll see a lot of titanium metal being used. But the bulk share of titanium is actually used to produce what they call titanium dioxide, which is a white powder. It's a whitening agent. So you would have brushed with titanium this morning with your toothpaste. It's quite safe to ingest, but it's principally used in plastics, paper, as in paint, anything with a shine or a gloss. It's often got a titanium pigment added to it to give it that shine and that brightness.
So it is really widely used in the industry and it is not scarce at all. So why did you have such a moonshot? It is really abundant in the Earth's crust. The difference makes the grade and the quality of the deposits and of course access to infrastructure location because that is a bulk mineral or deposits. You have all this in abundance, but let's have a look at your Makanipi. Did I pronounce it right? Project?
Yeah, Makanipi is the right pronunciation. Did very well there.
Here we are in southern Australia. And as we see, you have several projects. We will touch them slightly at the end. And as you mentioned already, Olympic Dam, a rich mineral endowment here in southern Australia. You are basically surrounded by deposits and mines. Please give us some facts, key facts about Makanipi.
So Makanipi occurs in what we call the Gawler Crater in South Australia. So that northern central part of South Australia is a very ancient geological terrain. It's known for gold and copper. And at Makanipi itself, there was a magma intrusion that intruded that area about 1.8 billion years ago, which had a very weird chemistry, and it's called an anorthosite or a layered anorthosite type rock. And where these rocks with this sort of same chemistry erupt into the bedrock, they often contain metals. So the most famous layered anorthosite complex is the Bushveld complex in South Africa, which of course is home to great nickel and copper and platinum group metals associations. But elsewhere, such another good example is in Norway. There's another anorthosite where we have a titanium basement mineralization called Telness. That mine's been operating for over 50 years and supplies a lot of Europe's titanium product. That's high-grade titanium being mined from the bedrock below. Another good one is Lacteo in Canada, and again, an anorthosite intrusion in northern Canada, which supplies, which Rio are developing and selling titanium products. So we have an anorthosite here in South Australia, and we found with our early exploration that Makanipi also had high titanium, and that's sort of what piqued our interest and why we got started exploring in that region.
And titanium has another important component. If we look where it comes from, it jumps into our eyes that the major source is China, in fact. I got the most recent numbers from 2020. It's a bit outdated, but there might have not changed a lot. So China is the number one producer. And in the current world situation, that gives Australia an important role to supply the West with titanium, correct?
Indeed, and there is a shortage of good titanium product in recent times, with there not being many new discoveries, and there are developments in Africa, but of course that comes with sovereign risk. So I think our project is quite favourable in that we're in a remote part of South Australia, but we've good access to infrastructure. We were close to the railway port to be able to truck our concentrate to processing plant, and we're in a very safe jurisdiction. And historically, Australia has been, one of the larger titanium producers. Most of the downstream processing plants, so, are in China or Japan. Particularly if you've got looking at titanium metal, they may go to Japan. The US also is a large consumer of titanium, and Western Europe. So we've got lots of options as to where this product will go.
And now let's have a closer look at your discovery press release. Here it is from November, and we see the high grades of titanium compounds. And interestingly, a bit more on top of this press release, we read that it starts close to the surface, so it would be perfectly easy to mine and also high grade. Please interpret those results.
Yes, so just prior to that release, we announced high concentrations of the heavy mineral concentrate, the HMC, and our price, we were just a low cap stock at the time, only market cap of about $4 million. And we went up we went up to maybe market cap of $8 million. And then this release that followed, I think it may have been in November, a month later, demonstrated that the titanium minerals that we found were very high concentration, high grade titanium minerals. So principally leucoxene and rutile product. And the market really loved that. So we jumped 5 or 6 times at that point, and then we jumped again with follow-up drilling that followed later that year. So the reason it became significant was that we demonstrated that the titanium minerals that we'd found were actually high value products that would fetch a good price in market.
And if you compare your deposit to other deposits in Australia and worldwide, how are they quality-wise?
It's quite unique, Makanipi. So the concentrations, particularly over a large area of the deposit, average over 10% heavy mineral content. And typically an operating mine might be, say, 5%. So we're almost double the grade. And the other important thing is too that the heavy mineral concentrate often has a lot of gangue, a lot of waste. It may have iron with the heavy minerals. Ours is pure, quite pure titanium products. So we have about 95% of our heavy mineral concentrate are valuable heavy minerals that we can sell to market. So that's why I think the market's really excited by Makanipi in that we've got high grade that's double a typical mine, and also the heavy mineral concentrate is a high value product that should fetch a good price. When we do sort of simple basket price type analysis, I think we might be able to produce per ton. I think produce an ore that's maybe generating twice the income of a typical operating mineral sands project going forward.
Interesting insight. And your Rosewood project that belongs to Makanipi, that's the area where you drilled. The most recent results were even more convincing. I read from this press release, these results extend mineralization additional 1.6 kilometers northwards. Mineralization in the Rosewood area now extends at least 3.6 kilometers in a north-south direction. How do you assess this? It's a real large area and it's still open to some directions, correct? I
That is
would guess, a
correct. Yes.
deposit you can mine for decades.
Indeed, yes. So we've identified in a west-east orientation mineralization now over an 8 kilometer width, and then north-south 3.6 kilometers. In detail, the higher grades look like they're in zones which trend more north-south. And the most recent drilling, as you've highlighted, we've now drilled 3.6 kilometers in north-south trend. It's all open to the north in particular. So we may, in fact, be able to double that length, and we actually have drilling starting in about a week's time to extend further north. But we're seeing certainly in the Rosewood East area at Makanipi, that Rosewood is the name of the main mineral sands project on the Makanipi site. Um, a high grade zone that is 2 or 3 kilometers wide and extending at least 3.6 kilometers and continuing further to the north, and it may continue for many more kilometers. And then another western area which is also showing high grades, and they are connected, and we potentially could mine it all. So in summary, we actually have now over 15 square kilometers of mineralization showing excellent grades, and starting from near surface, so starting at 3 or 4 meters depth and extending down to about 15 meters, 15 to 20 meters depth. So it's something that we can easily dig up with a bulldozer, separate quite simply, backfill as we go. So from an environmental point of view too, it's a really good mining operation and quite low tech.
Sounds like a cash engine in the making, but let me show the drill map. Here it is. We see some previous drill holes, and in the press release that I just mentioned, you released the results of 10 holes, I think, and 73 were drilled. When can we expect those results? That's the
That,
mineralized corridor, right?
that's right. Yes. So that's Rosewood East area. We released those 10 holes, which are those red dots you can see there. The yellow dots relate to holes we drilled late in 2024, and those results have been released. And the green dots are drill holes. We have results pending, and they're not far away. I hope to get an update to the market within 2 weeks of those results. And there'll be other drill results too further west outside of that frame. Relating to that Makanipi project that we hope to have out in the market within the next couple of weeks.
What is your general plan for the project? You could become a producer pretty quickly, but maybe first producing a resource estimate, preliminary economic assessment, maybe joint venture. What's the plan going forward?
Yes, so we have drilling, as briefly mentioned, starting again in about a week's time. That'll be exploration focused, drilling further to the north and also testing other areas in the region we think are prospective. Following that drilling, I suspect, come our spring, your autumn period, around September, October, we'll be going into a resource drill out phase, and we'll define our first resources. And in parallel, while that drilling's going on over the second half of this year, we're doing a lot of metallurgical assessments. So we have a 1 ton sample with the laboratories now doing standard processing to work to produce our first products. So we can see what sort of flow sheet is required in building a plant to commercialize this operation. So we hope to be able to de-risk a lot of the project in the next 6 months. We'll then, quickly move into, I guess, feasibility type work. And we think this is the sort of project that a junior can develop and grow with the project simply because the drilling is quick, it's cheap, there's not rocket science. The process, the plant that goes with producing a heavy mineral concentrate, they call that a spiral type plant, a wet concentrator and spiral technology. That's off the shelf technology and plant that we can order in from China and erect on site. So I think it's the sort of project that we can go to de-risking the next 6 months, going into the feasibility phase work then, but quite quickly over the next few years, actually, we might end up producing more, and certainly it's our intention to go all the way with this project.
That sounds very good. And did you do already any economic calculations about the viability, mining costs, etc., or is this part of this ongoing works?
That is work to be done in the future. Of course, we've done our own internal assessments, but being a public company, we're not at a point yet where we can release our internal systems. To suffice to say, we're very optimistic. There have been some independent financial analysis done by other players watching Petrotherm, and I think most people can see, and I guess it's reflected in our share price now, where we've had essentially a 20-fold increase in market value over the last 4 or 5 months. Um, that this project, we need to do a lot wrong for it not to work. I think there's a lot of fat there, and I think it could be highly profitable. And a business that could probably this mine could potentially run, more than 20 years, might run 30 or 40 years, the size potential that we have there.
So then I guess you want to become a producer on your own. That's a completely different story than a gold mining company. CapEx, development, discovery risk is a different world in the gold mining business. So yours sounds really easy to do, and your shareholders will have the benefit of it, right?
We hope so. Yes, we certainly hope so. I mean, a good example, back 20 years ago when we found Prominent Hill, we sold that project for $100 million, basically. And that's a multi-billion dollar mine still operating today, employing 1,000 people. And whilst it was fantastic for shareholders back then, 20 years ago, this is that was also a $1 billion investment to actually get the mine going because it's deep, it's copper, it's expensive. This is mineral sands, it's cheap, it's a couple of bulldozers and it's some very cheap plants. So it's the sort of thing a junior can develop. And yet I think in terms of our future valuations, it has the same potential as a large copper mine. So I think we've got a lot of growth and we want to maximize that growth through trying to develop the project ourselves. But having said that, I mean, if a big fish comes along and swallows us, that could happen too. So we'll wait and see.
Right. And your project is 645 square kilometers. May there be a chance that you even discover more titanium enriched zones than Rosewood?
I think there's a good potential for that. We already have what we call saprolite ore. So the ancient rocks which underpin the mineral sands, as I mentioned, were titanium enriched. And we've drilled some of those ancient rock areas, and we've found good intercepts of titanium mineralization, particularly in the weathered zone, which is what we call saprolite. That's where the ancient bedrock is broken down to a clay. And that clay zone is typically 40 or 50 meters thick, and we're having drill intercepts there, which may grade around 20 to 30% titanium minerals. So we think they may be, economic too. It's a lot more clay there, so it's more washing and more work involved in separating heavy minerals. But we think that there's potential there, and there are three areas on our leases where we found this to date, and we think there may be other areas. And with Rosewood too, as mentioned, it's open to the north, and we think that's an ancient shoreline that extends maybe tens of kilometers. So we want to explore that area for new concentrations. So I think there's a lot of upside to come with this project.
Fantastic story, but as we saw at the beginning, that's not all. You have more projects, and one stood out for me, and that was Comet. I go back to the map for a moment. Rare earth minerals or metals are also a big topic right now with the tariff conflict US and China. But maybe you say some words to the other projects in general and especially on Comet.
Sure. So the Comet project area there, we actually acquired it originally for gold because we were aware of some gold drill intercepts from the 1990s, and there's some good gold potential there too. But we found when we did our early geochemical evaluation work, we were finding a lot of rare earths. And we now have three sites at Comet where we have good concentrations of rare earths in the weathered clay zone. So similar to what you find, with the clay-hosted rare earth deposits of Southeast China. There are three areas there which have excellent concentrations and potential for large tonnage. But I guess our technical issue to date has been we're having trouble separating those rare earths from the clay minerals. So there's been a metallurgical problem there, but I still think there's great potential with further work, and we may find other areas with higher concentrations. The other two project areas, Woomera and Maple Creek, go back to, I guess, that's going back to our knitting, looking for copper and gold in the Olympic province of South Australia. And both of those projects have some very exciting drill targets. When you target these big copper systems, so the copper is associated with iron, it's very dense. So we've undertaken a lot of gravity survey work, which we use to identify gravity anomalies. We've got a number of drill-ready targets there, and some of those targets have exceptional size, but they're quite deep and expensive to test. So we haven't tested them to date, but that's something that we will look to do in the near term.
Finally, Mr. Reed, a company does not only live on hard facts, there are also soft facts, of course. Do you have any major investors who support you? How do they support you? And how much does the management hold in the company, which is usually also very telling?
Sure. So historically, we've come out of a brokerage firm called Taylor Collison here in South Australia, and they're they themselves and some of their high net worth investors have been historically some of our largest shareholders. We have one large institution called Acorn Capital. They've come in and have backed us for now for a couple of years. They have about 8% holding. Uh, management and board own about probably 9-10% of the stock. And with recent capital raises, our board and senior management have all been heavily involved in supporting the project going forward. With our most recent capital raise, we raised just over $8 million. And we saw a number of new institutions come onto our register. So I guess we've gone from being an early stage explorer now that we've actually got a project I think with a lot of upside potential, we're seeing institutional interest. And that's also, I guess, being reflected by the fact that now our market capitalization has reached certain benchmarks that, we suddenly appear flashing on these investment firms' ticker lights. So yeah, we had a lot of strong institutional support with that last $8 million raise, and we fielding calls every day. So I think it's something which will grow over time, our register.
If you should summarize at the end now the key facts why also retail investors should have a closer look at your company, what would be the key facts?
Well, I think we've got a really good operating team, and all the ex discovery metrics are showing that we've got something that's high grade. It's not proving that we can't see any red flags. So it's a very pure ore. It has almost no contaminants. So we think it's going to be a very simple thing to develop. We've recently brought on to our board a senior executive who's is formerly from a banking background for over 30 years. And he also, his name is Robert Senator. He developed a large deposit in the Ivory Coast in Africa, with a company called MDL. And so he's been through this growth phase in developing a large mineral sands project. We welcome his expertise. So, and saw that ultimately being sold to the French government. So I think corporately we're very strong, and I think technically quite strong. And every time we get new data back from the field, it's surprising us too as geologists. So I think these are really good signs, and we've still got a lot of potential to grow further. When you look at our market cap, sure, we've had a big rise, but when you compare us to some of the other large mineral sands projects globally, there's still a lot of upside potential there in terms of our valuation.
Reed, CEO of Petra Term Limited. I thank you very much for this comprehensive interview. I look forward to getting more drill results, more exciting exploration results from your company, and good luck to you with your work program this year. And we stay for sure in touch. Thank you for today.
Fantastic. No, thanks for your interest.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye
Okay.
bye.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, John. Thank you.